So, very good morning to all of you for watching this video. A warm welcome to Brother Mentor IAS demo classes. Brother Mentor IAS is a startup institution started in the year of 2021, and we have been venturing into multiple batches and other courses we offer to the UPSC and TNPSC aspirants and community at affordable cost. So, as we always say, we believe in quality teaching at affordable cost. We have been continuously doing it since last year, and we will continue to do it in this year as well. So, as a part of that, Brother Mentor IAS has started to provide 10 days free demo classes, 10 days of free demo classes for the UPSC Civil Service Examination 2023 to make the aspirants community familiar with the syllabus, familiar with the examination pattern, familiar with the type of questions that was asked and that will be asked, familiar with the mistakes, familiar with the strategy, familiar with everything that UPSC Civil Service Examination expects from the aspirants community. So in that thought process, today is the day 4th demo. We have already completed the 3 days of demo. We started with introduction to civil service, and then we have on the second day we did history, Indian history, introduction to Indian history, and also we did geography, introduction to geography. And today the day 4 is for Indian polity, the most important topic of the UPSC civil service syllabus, the Indian polity. So my name is Sudhakar, and you can call me as Sai. My preferred name is Sai. So I am the academic coordinator and the faculty in Brother Mentor IAS. So I handle various subjects in Brother Mentor. I handle Indian polity and constitution. I handle Indian society. I also handle governance in mains perspective. Also, I handle ethics and integrity as a GS4 paper for the aspirants in the UPSC syllabus. And I also coordinate the faculty and academy administration. Academy is part of the Brother Mentor IAS. So on behalf of the Brother Mentor IAS, I warmly welcome all of you to this 4th day demo session. So before I proceed, I would like to talk about the importance of polity in the examination process. If you take UPSC civil service examination, be it the prelims, be it the mains, or be it the interview, polity takes an important seat. Polity takes an important place in all these stages of the examination. I rather say to the students that there are only 4 pillars. I mean, there are other pillars as well, but there are main pillars that handles the entire syllabus is history, geography, economics, and polity. These are the 4 major pillars that carries the entire civil service examination. So, polity takes a very important seat, as I said. So, in prelims, out of the 100 questions in the GS1 first paper, at least 15 questions, 15 questions are expected from polity. It even gone up to 25, 26 questions in the previous years. But minimum, we can expect 15 questions, not less than that. And it can go up to 30 also sometimes. So, which means 30 to 60 marks are expected from only one syllabus, only one paper, which is Indian polity in prelims. And at the mains perspective, you can find this subject in GS2, General Studies, second paper, in the name of Indian polity, Indian constitution, governance. Governance is also a part of Indian polity, but in a different specialized way, we have to read that. So out of the 250 marks, every GS paper carries 250 marks. Out of the 250 marks, Indian polity alone constitutes 125 to 150 marks, which means 50% of this paper is only from Indian polity. 50 to 60%, it depends on the year. If you see the last year paper, 2021 paper, we can certainly see that polity takes a major chunk in GS2 paper. So 125 to 150 marks you can expect from one subject. And also if you take an interview, the personality test, even more questions are asked from political angle, polity angle, the opinion of you. For example, what is your opinion on Uniform Civil Code? What is your opinion on sedition law, sedition section 124A? What is your opinion on triple talaq? What is your opinion on the conflict between the governor and the chief minister? What is your opinion on the constitutional bodies? What is your opinion on separating judiciary from executive? So you can expect n number of questions from Indian polity subject itself. So a paper that takes its possibility in all the sections is very important, and which is why we give more importance to polity, and which is why we are here to help you to understand the skeleton of Indian polity, this paper. So today's discussion, today's demo is about to explain the skeleton of the entire polity syllabus, right? So what are the things that we are going to study in Indian polity? In Indian polity, first we need to understand the concept called polity. The Indian polity is nothing but studying the political structure of the country. How the Indian political structure is constructed. And we have a rule book called Constitution. And how the Constitution is helping to deconstruct the political structure of the country. So India was a colonized country in British regime, and we were continuously ruled by British for the last almost 200 years, right? So we were ruled by their own rules. We were ruled by their own constitution. We were ruled by their colonial, imperial rules and laws. But ever since after independence, India became a sovereign nation. India wanted a rule book. India wanted a governance document. So which is why India entered into creating the own rule book for its own country. And this process started in the year of 1946. And it lasted till 1949, November 26. And finally commenced in the year of 1950, January 26, which we popularly called as Republic Day. So India became Republic, which means India has got its own rule book, otherwise called as Constitution. So this is the small history. So this historical background is the first thing that we are going to study in Indian polity. So as I said, India was ruled by British with their own law. So first what we are going to study is the historical background. Historical background of Indian political history. So what were all the regulations that was created by the British to rule India? So we're going to study that one as the first part, and we will study how that laws that made an impact on Indian society, made an impact on Indian political history, and made an impact on the democracy altogether. How it has shaped the thought process, the minds of our forefathers, that we are going to study in historical background. Then comes to the next one is, as I said, ever after independence, India started its own own document, own rule book, which is making of the constitution. So, as I said, India got independence in 1947, but nevertheless, India started to create its own constitution from the year of 1946, December 9. On the 9th of December, we started forming the Indian constitution, creating the Indian constitution, creating the law, creating the rules for our own. So how it has been created, who created it, on what basis those people were elected, on what basis those people was empowered to create the document, and what are all the things that were discussed in that assembly, and who are all the important people participated in the creation of the constitution, and what are all the important committees that were created in the making of the constitution. And finally, we will discuss what are all the important outcomes of this making of the constitution. That is the part we are going to study in this constitution. And of course, we all know Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the father of the Indian constitution, popularly called as father of Indian constitution, played a very important role in making the Indian constitution. Why Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is called as the father of Indian constitution, that we are going to answer while studying this making of the constitution syllabus, part of the syllabus. And finally, let's move on to the next topic. So after making of the constitution, we will directly get into the actual constitution. So far we have only seen the history and the making. Now we are entering into the actual content. So now the next topic is preamble. So preamble is nothing but a blueprint of the Indian constitution. Of course, for any book, we have something called prefix, or we have something called preview. Preview is the shorter version of the entire book. If you want to know what is that you are going to study in the book, it is okay to just read the preview. In current terms, we can compare it with the Indian cinema, or for that matter, any cinema. So the entire movie is converted into a 1 minute or 2 minute trailer. It's a trailer version. We call it as teaser, trailer of the entire movie. So what is that movie is all about? We can learn it from the trailer itself. Similarly, what is the entire constitution is all about? We can learn from preamble. Just by reading the preamble, we can understand what is that constitution the entire book is going to tell the reader. So we will talk about preamble. What are the important keywords in preamble? What is the meaning? There are a lot of keywords in preamble. For example, there is a word called sovereignty. You might have heard this. For freshers, you might have heard it in somewhere in your schools or in your colleges, or when you read a newspaper, when you accidentally watch a news and political party members, or in parliament, anywhere. What is the meaning of the word sovereignty? You will understand this in this while reading this. What is the meaning of republic? As I just said, Jan 26, 1950, India celebrates its Republic Day. But what is the meaning of republic? Have you ever got a curiosity to learn this? We will teach you. We will learn what is republic. And have you democracy? What is the meaning of democracy? We will learn. What is the meaning of equality? We will learn in preamble. What is the meaning of justice? We will learn. What is the meaning of fraternity? We will learn. What is the meaning of brotherhood? We will learn. What is the meaning of integrity? We will learn. So all these important keywords, and again we have few words also called secular. What is the meaning of secular? And of course, in today's context, there is a huge chaos going on in the country on the hijab issue. So whenever we talk about religious issues, obviously there is a room for talking about secularism. What is the meaning of secularism? And how Indian secularism is different from other countries' secularism? We will talk about that. And we will talk about the socialism. There's a word called socialism in preamble. So we have to understand what is socialism. And at the same time, we have to understand what is communism. and then what is socialism, and what is Fabianism, and what is capitalism also, so that we will understand and we will differentiate it with all the other parts. So we'll be familiarized with all these important keywords while we study preamble. And next one we talk is, we are actually getting into the constitution. 1 second, give me. The next one that we are going to talk is actual articles. So we will talk about actual articles. So Indian constitution are split up into different articles, parts, and schedules. So articles, important articles we are going to study, and we will study important parts of the constitution and important schedules of the constitution. For better understanding, Indian constitution has been split up into such parts and schedules. Similarly as how our books are also designed in such a way. So in that, the first thing that we are going to study is part 1 of the constitution, which is union and its territories. Union and its territories, which is nothing but, we will talk about what is that, what is called union, or what is the Indian, what is the political structure of India, what is the polity of India, and we will talk about what are the territories available in India. Different territories. We have something called states. We have something called union territories. Why should we have a separate territory called union territory? We have Delhi, Pondicherry, Andaman Nicobar, Chandigarh. Why should we have a separate entity called union territory? We should know. And what are the ways that India can acquire an Indian territory outside India? And what are the ways that have you ever recently seen the news that in 2019 Jammu and Kashmir has lost its statehood? It was a state, now it has become a union territory. How it is possible? Who is empowered to make such modifications in the Indian geographical pattern, Indian map? And of course, Andhra Pradesh in 2014 was a united Andhra Pradesh. Now it was split up into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Who is creating these new states? We need to understand. So we can see that in union and territories part. And then we'll move into part 2 of the constitution, which is citizenship. So we have already talked about territories. Now we will talk about people in the territory and the citizenship. So what is citizenship? It is the authority for the people to participate in the political affairs of the country. So citizenship, what are the articles that talks about citizenship, powers that gives to the parliament to create citizenship, some related law. All this we'll talk about citizenship, and what are the ways that a country can give citizenship. I mean, India in this perspective, what are the ways that India provides citizenship to its citizens, and what are the ways that citizenship can be taken back by the government, and how the citizenship was given in 1950, because India was split into 2 countries, right? India was into a separation mode, and India was separated into India and Pakistan. And there are a lot of people who migrated from India to Pakistan and again came back to the homeland. And there are a lot of people who were in the Pakistan, came back to India after the split. So a lot of chaos happened, mass migration was happening, and the citizenship has to be fixed. So some certain rules has to be fixed, some expected criteria has to be fixed. We will talk about that. And after 1950, what is the status of citizenship? Before 1950, Constitution has explained, but what is the status after 1950? We will talk about that. Have you recently, recently in the sense, in 2019 again, there was a widespread agitation against the entire country, across the country, against the amendment made by the Parliament on Citizenship Act, the famously called as Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. Amend the CAA, ban CAA. You might have come across such agitation across the country by different political parties and other pressure groups. So what is the CEA? We will talk about that in citizenship, right? Then we'll move on to the third topic, which is the most important topic in the entire polity, which is fundamental rights. Which is fundamental rights. Every citizen of the country, not just citizen, every human being should have something called human rights. So human rights is universal for everyone. Not necessarily you have to be a citizen of the country. Human rights, if you are a human, you will have some certain rights. That is called human rights. When you're born as a human, you will definitely get human rights. But what is fundamental rights? That is the political rights that you get in a country. The rights that you get is against the state. The state, which means against the government. Because government tends to be authoritative against you. Government tends to abridge your rights. Government don't want you to talk anything against them. Government don't want you to write anything against them, but you have that right. Government don't want to. Government always tends to take away your property. Government always tends to take away your life also, your privacy aspects also. But you have certain rights to safeguard yourself from the government's or authoritative and arbitrary actions, which is called fundamental rights. And this is the most important topic that we are going to study in the Indian Constitution, because the Indian Constitution is the book itself. The book itself is giving you the fundamental rights for citizens and for aliens as well. When I say aliens, which means foreigners. So there are certain fundamental rights which are only given to citizens of India. So this is the basic feature of the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution is nothing but which is controlling the powers of the government, which is putting the limitations on the government. The government in power cannot do everything that they think. There are certain limitations for the government. There are certain power definition to the government. Government cannot do anything that they think. Because the Constitution is providing fundamental rights to the citizens. Fundamental rights to the citizens. So we will talk about what are the fundamental rights available to the citizens and for aliens, and what are the features of the fundamental rights and everything, and associated parts. Then we'll move on to, this is part 3, and we will move on to part 4 of the Constitution, which is nothing but DPSP, which is Directive Principles of State Policy. This is the philosophy of the Constitution. Dr. Ambedkar popularly said, fundamental rights and DPSP are the philosophy of the Constitution. So DPSP, the word itself has its meaning. It is the directive principles of state policy. So whenever the government is creating the policy for the people, because what is the primary purpose of the government? Primary purpose of the government is to safeguard the boundary, safeguard the people, maintain law and order, along with that, provide socio-economic political policies to the people of the country. So when the government is trying to create the policy for the socio-economic development of the people, the government has to take into consideration certain directives given by the Constitution itself. Be it any government, the governments may change. Today there is the government of NDA. Tomorrow there will be UPA government, or tomorrow maybe the coalition government of state parties altogether. Doesn't matter who is ruling us, but any government that rules us should consider the directives given to them. It is like instructions that the principal gives to the students. The certain directives has to be taken into consideration by the government in place. So these directives in turn converts into a development of the people. For example, there is a directive called the government in place should take care of the health and nutrition of the citizens, which is why we have government hospitals today, which is why we have been administered with 2 dosage of free vaccines by the government. Why the government should do all these things? People have to pay, right, for their vaccines, but right now the government is helping with free hands. Government is taking the owning that cost. Why should the government do? Because it is a directive given by the constitution that government in place should understand and take care of the health and nutrition of the citizens, which is why we are getting free vaccines, which is why we are having government hospitals, which is why we are having the government health insurance scheme, Ayushman Bharat scheme of 5 lakhs rupees. Yeah. So we will talk about what are all the directives that was given to the government. Then we'll go to the next topic, part 4A. So A is amendment, newly added. This was not in the original constitution, but was recently in 1978. This was added. 1976, sorry, 1976 was added. So which is nothing but fundamental duties. Fundamental duties. Indian constitution originally had fundamental rights, but originally we did not have fundamental duties. How many of you know that there is something called fundamental duties that every citizen has to follow? There are 11 fundamental duties that every citizen has to follow. When I say I cannot say compulsory you have to follow, but you can follow. If you don't follow, there's nothing going to be a punishable one, except on certain matters. But you have to follow certain things. You don't only enjoy the rights given by the constitution, but at the same time, what is it you are giving back to the government? You are giving back to the government and society in the form of duties. For example, there are certain duties like you have to respect India's rich culture and heritage. You have to give respect to the national flag, national anthem, Constitution of India. Okay, and you cannot disobey your national flag. You cannot disobey the national song. You cannot disobey your national anthem. So it is your duty to give due respect to this symbolic things for the government, for the entire country. And you have to respect women. That's another fundamental duty. You have to respect and safeguard the dignity of the women. That's another important fundamental duty. You have to safeguard the public properties, historical monuments. That is your fundamental duty. We have to respect the freedom fighters. Your fundamental duty. So there are certain fundamental duties that we need to follow that we will talk in this particular section. Then we are moving into part 4A. We have already done part 4A. Then is part 5, which is system of government, which is nothing but central government. Then now we are talking about Indian polity. We have something called central government. We have something called state government. And we have something called local government. For people in Tamil Nadu, you might have known that recently there was an election conducted for the urban local bodies. In 2020, there was an election conducted for the rural local bodies. What is this local body? So we in India follow 3-tier system: central government, state government, and local government. Originally, we had only 2-tier system: central government and state government. But after 1992, we inserted a new system of government called local government, where the local issues are resolved by the local people themselves. So, and in that part, in part 5 of the constitution, we will first talk about central government. And what is that in the central government? We have something called the president, the Indian president, the Rashtrapati of the country. Who is he? What are the powers of the president? What are the functions of the president? What are the duties of the president? We will talk about that. And then we will talk about prime minister. So that we have the post called prime minister, and who is considered to be the most powerful person of the entire country. But what are the powers defined by the constitution to the prime minister? What are all the functions of the prime minister? We will talk about that. How the prime minister and president, even how the president is appointed. What is the qualification of the president? If you want to become the president, what is the qualification? and how you are elected, whether the president is elected or nominated. We have done we will study how the election of the president is happening. We will study. Similarly, how the prime minister is elected and what is the qualification to become the prime minister and what are all the powers and functions of the prime minister. And even we can disqualify the president and the prime minister also. In India being a democratic country, we have all possibilities given by the constitution to qualify someone and at the same time to disqualify someone from the post. Even the topmost person, the first citizen of the country, the Indian president, also can be disqualified, or in other words, can be removed from the post, from the office. We have provisions for that in the Indian constitution. So not just if you go to the seat, if you go to the office, you cannot be removed. No, not like that. We can remove even the president of India if there is any misbehavior from his side. So we will talk about that. And after the prime minister, president we have done, prime minister we have done, then we'll move on to parliament. We have something called parliament, the spherical shaped building that you usually see in the newspapers and books. So parliament, what is the parliament is all about? What do they do in this? You can see huge number of people from different parts of the country sitting there and spending time to create laws for the country. But what is the powers? What are the powers given to the parliament? How parliament is very important in the Indian political structure. We will talk about that in the central government. And then we will talk about Supreme Court. We have something called Supreme Court. Always you see in newspaper, you will find at least one article about Supreme Court. So what is the Supreme Court is all about? Why Supreme Court is always in news? Why Supreme Court always gives some verdict against the government? What is the powers of the Supreme Court and how the power is defined in the Constitution? We will talk about that in part 5. And we will talk about Attorney General and other miscellaneous topics in central government. Then we will talk about state government in part 6. So now we are done with part 5. Now we are getting into part 6. We have something called state government. India is divided into 28 states. We had 29, but after Jammu and Kashmir lost the statehood in 2019, now we are 28 states. So what is that all about? Why there is a structure called state government and why there is a posting called governor? What is the purpose of the governor? Most of the time we will never see the governor. Most of the time we never see governor coming into the public, meeting the public. We only see chief minister meeting the public, getting the petitions. But why governor is not in a public place? Do we get such questions? Of course we get such questions, and all the questions will be answered in this topic. What is the governor? So in state government we have governor, and we have the chief minister, and we have ministers. As I missed to say that in the central government we have someone called union ministers. Nirmala Sitharaman, the most famous minister. Amit Shah ji, the most famous minister. We have someone called minister, a group of ministers. Again, their postings, the powers, appointment, everything we will discuss. Similarly, in state government, we have chief minister and the council of ministers. For a chief minister, you will find 15 to 20, sometimes 30, 40 ministers. Well, we have Uttar Pradesh elections now. So you can see 50 ministers in Uttar Pradesh election. 50 ministers, because it's a big state. So what are the powers and functions of the prime ministers? We will talk about that. And we will talk about state legislature. We have seen parliament in the central government. We are seeing the state legislature in the state government. We popularly called as MLA. For every constituency, you will have MLA. You might have seen that who is your constituency MLA? What is the powers of the MLA? How it is appointed? Things we will discuss. This is part 6. And part 7 is empty. We will talk about that. Part 7 is empty. And we have part 8 and part 9. We will next we are going to Panchayat Raj. As I just said, this is the third tier government that we are going to talk. We have something called Panchayat Raj government, which is local self-government. There are two types of government, which is urban, rural local government and urban local government. So India is divided into rural and urban for administrative convenience, and we have elected representatives from each of these places, and they take care of the local issues. For example, drinking water issue at the local level. Yeah. So all these small issues can be resolved. That's what the idea of Panchayat Raj, the third tier government. A quick resolution, local solution for local problems. Okay. Local solution for local problems. Need not to wait for the state government or the central government to come back and answer your queries and get that issue resolved. Not like you need not to wait. We have the representative who is residing next to your house, called councillor or a chairman or a mayor. Yeah. So you can easily approach them and give your grievance, and that can be taken care as soon as possible. Yeah. So that Panchayat Raj system, we will talk about that, the powers and functions of the Panchayat Raj system. Then we'll talk about few other important, these are the major parts that is available in Indian polity and constitution, and few other topics. We have something called emergency provisions. Of course, you might have come across such things in your school studies. We had something called emergency time in 1975 to 1977, somewhere near to that, and a lot of powers, lot of political excess has happened. So we will talk about what are the emergencies available. We have three important emergencies: national emergency, president rule, otherwise called as state emergency, or otherwise called as constitutional emergency. And we have something called financial emergency also. Whenever the government do not have enough money to spend, government is empowered to create an emergency on financial matters. So salaries of the government employees can be reduced. Salaries of the Supreme Court, High Court employees, High Court judges can be reduced. The grant given to the state governments by the center will be reduced. Tax distribution to the state governments by the central government will be reduced. So all this fiscal prudence, all these fiscal related matters can be reduced during a financial emergency, just to avoid any unwanted expenses. Okay, that is called fiscal canon. We call it as fiscal canon. Maintain fiscal canon. Unwanted expenses you can avoid, so that you can have enough money to meet your demands. So we'll talk about that. Now, how the fundamental rights are affected during emergency. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Then we will talk about special provisions to certain states. Special provisions to certain states. In India, even though we have 28 states on equal footing, there are certain privileges given to few states. There are 10 states. There are where certain provisions are extra, which means given additionally to those states because of the socio-economic and political nature of that state. Few states were given special status because of their rich culture and heritage. Few states were given special provisions because of their backwardness of the state, not the entire state, but a few parts of the state, because of the backwardness. And certain states were given special status because of the problems that we created during the reorganization of states. Today we have 28 states, but this was not the case in 1950 or 1947 for that matter. India had 21 states, and that was converted into 14 states. And it was again growing 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, till 2019, we had 29 states. But again, in 2019, one state was removed and was given the territory, given the status of union territory. So again, we have 28 states. And there is no guarantee that this will remain forever. So this can be increasing, or this can be decreasing. You may see in future, in the Indian states will increase. Number of Indian states will increase from 28 to 40 sometimes. For example, take an example of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh have more than 13 crore population. So one Uttar Pradesh is equal to half of European countries. Half of the European countries. You can include France, Italy, Germany, UK, okay, Belgium. If you include all these states into the population, you can match it with Uttar Pradesh. So such a big state. So there are a popular demand that Uttar Pradesh has to be split into 4 states. There are certain areas where separate statehood is demanded. Darjeeling is asking for a separate state. Nagaland, the few parts of Nagaland are asking for separate state. So there are a lot of demands. Even Tamil Nadu, there is a demand for Kongu Nadu, a separate state inside from Tamil Nadu itself. The western part of Tamil Nadu has to be split up as Kongu Nadu. So you may see, so because of their split, certain people were included into the state where their culture is different, the language is different, but because of the reorganization, they are affected. So for that, special status has been given to them. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about in central government itself, we have spoke about Supreme Court. We will talk about Supreme Court. In state government, we will talk about High Court and other subordinate courts. What are other subordinate courts? We have district courts, sessions court, judicial magistrate court, family court, special courts for MP and MLAs cases, special court for Mahila, which is women. We'll talk about that. So, and we have something called 5th schedule and 6th schedule. These are the areas demarcated for the reason that SC and ST people live in a large number across the country. There are 10 states in 5th schedule where few parts of the states are scheduled, demarcated as a scheduled area just because huge number of SC people, scheduled caste people are living there. And there are 4 states in 6th schedule where it is demarcated as tribal areas because a lot of tribal people are live there. So they have some special status than the other states, other parts of the country. They just to safeguard their rich heritage, culture, religious rituals, the customary law, the tradition that they have been following for ages together. So there are certain provisions available in the Constitution to safeguard such people. We will talk about what are the provisions available to them as given by the Constitution of the country, right? And we will talk about certain institutions of the Constitution. We have got constitutional body. Let's say a famous example of Election Commission of India. The Election Commission of India is a constitutional body. The Election Commission of India is entrusted to conduct elections for the president, conduct the election for the vice president, conduct the election for the parliament, conduct the election for the state legislatures. So India being a democratic country where the people should elect their leader, that is called democracy. So this particular task is given to the Election Commission, a separate body. Just imagine, what if the government itself conducts election? It is purely unfair, isn't it? Because if the government itself conducts the election, obviously the government in power will misuse the election process, which is why our forefathers, the makers of the Constitution, has created a separate body which is away from the government, which the body is entrusted with autonomous powers, which means they don't want to listen what the government say. They have their own powers, they have their own authority, just to ensure a free and fair election that takes place, which is the basic of democracy. The election is considered to be the basic ethos of democracy. And being a democratic country, we have to have a separate institution to conduct election without any political interferences, right? So we will talk about multiple constitutional bodies are there. We will talk about that. The UPSC, the institution which conducts the examination for all the important posts, all India service post, IAS, IPS, IRS, IFS, IFOS, and other Group A and Group B services, is a constitutional body. UPSC is a constitutional body. It is given the task of recruiting the best talents. Of course, you're all studying to become one among them, right? So UPSC is given the task of recruiting the best talents of the country to the all prestigious posts. So again, it's a constitutional body, and we will talk about statutory body. There are other institutions called, let's say, example of CBI, the most famous CBI, and we have something called Central Vigilance Commission. We have something called Lokpal and Lokayukta. You might have come across all these words in the newspaper. So we'll talk about such institutions and powers and functions of that institutions. Right? So again, this is another topic. And we have certain miscellaneous topics like official language, okay, official language, system of government, and other miscellaneous topics, small topics that we can study. But majorly, these are all the important topics that we're going to study in Indian polity for its prelims, mains, and interview. So this is the overall skeleton of Indian polity syllabus. We will talk about each and every section in detail, in depth. So my style of teaching is to make things very simple. Whenever I teach a subject, a section, I will bring in the previous year question papers, and I will make you to solve then and there. Lena, can you go on mute? Thank you. Thanks for coming, Lena, by the way. Thanks for joining the session. So I will bring in the previous year question paper and I will make you to solve then and there. For example, let's say if we have completed studying citizenship, immediately I will give you the previous year question papers, and on live you can solve the question so that you will gain confidence. Okay, that's my style, and the classes will be bilingual. Just because I have spoken only on English, because it is a recorded version, and all people, aspirants from all parts of the country watch the video, which is why I only use English as the medium. But don't worry, I will use as much as possible the mother tongue of the land, Tamil. It will be bilingual class, the actual classes. Don't worry about that. We will use as much as possible to make you understand the concepts of Indian polity, right? So the entire PCM batch is going to be minimum of 10 months to maximum of 1 year. We will cover the entire syllabus. We are already covering the syllabus for the previous year batches. We have been running 4 batches of PCM batches, and we have already covered 90% of the syllabus, and we will be covering it in a week. So we assure that we will cover the syllabus for sure.